Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Team Review YouTube channel. And it's Thursday night live with myself and Holly once again. Holly, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. We'll get straight into it. Obviously, I haven't heard your thoughts yet on the Man United game. What did you think of it?
I thought the first 60 minutes or so was okay. We played a lot better than I thought we would have done. And I was starting to get a bit too ahead of myself and think, we could maybe nick a point from this. But obviously, I was getting a bit too overexcited because in the end, it ended up being what I thought and we got beat. But I still think we were quite lucky because it was a lot better than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be 3-4-0.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you were the only one that thought we were going to get something out of the game. Certainly at half time, I think we were by far the better team in the first half, controlled the game, and we're very unlucky to fall behind. It was just a terrible defensive mistake from our friend Emil Kraft. And then obviously, I don't think Darlow should have been beaten at his near post, but there was signs in that first half that we had a bit of fighting spirit. But what did you think about the second half? Because, I've said in my review and things like that we just capitulated after 60 minutes, especially when the second goal went in. But for me, it's all about what's been said at half time, because they took the foot off the gas to some extent and just gave up.
Definitely. I said it's kind of weird because it's like we did a reverse of what we normally do, because we normally are really poor in the first half and then we do better in the second half. But this time it was the reverse, and I just, for once, I can't understand why we can't just play a full 90 minutes where we're just decent. I don't know what Steve Bruce said to them at half time, because it certainly didn't encourage them, that's for sure.
Yeah. Does it worry you? I mean, I've mentioned a few times about our inability to play 90 minutes of football from the start to the end. We either play well, like you said, we play well in the first half, or we play well in the second half. There's never a combined two halves of football where we actually play well. And, when we're going into this sort of fight that we are against relegation, it's a massive concern to me that we're not playing 90 minutes of football, and we just lapse into silly mistakes which give away goals, and we can't afford it now at this stage of the season.
It's a massive worry. We're never gonna be able to win a game if we can't play for 90 minutes well. The only time we will is if the other team is really, really poor, but there's not many, because we're 17th in the league, so there's only 3 teams currently that are worse than us. So I don't understand what happens with them. It's just they get too comfortable thinking, we'll be okay in the game, and they kind of just give up the fight and then just allow us to go behind.
Yeah, I mean, I was so frustrated at Man United, and again, frustrated at the apparent leaders that we have on the pitch. I mean, Lascelles put his head down again when that second goal went in. The penalty, there was no appeals against it. Nobody seemed to go to the referee. And, I've been thinking since it happened that it was a penalty, but then I've looked at it again and again and again, and I'm not so sure it was now, and the fact that no Newcastle player got up to the referee and said, look, send it to VAR, do anything you can. I mean, I know it went to VAR, but, just a bit more anger in the, I mean, Willett got up and just walked away as if it was just meant to happen. And we can't show that kind of fight now between now and the end of the season with these games coming up. This defeatist attitude we've got, but it lies at the manager's feet, surely.
Yeah, this is what I've said all season, though. It wouldn't be the fact that we've got a lack of ability within the squad that would be the reason why we'd go down. It's because of the mentality, because they just don't have any fight. And that does start at Bruce, because Bruce is constantly saying to the fans and stuff that we're in no danger and we're not going to go down, when we all know different. So if your boss is telling you that everything's going to be fine, you just believe him, and it's not going to be fine. So you need to just be honest and realistic and say you need to start pulling your finger out. Otherwise, we're going to end up going down.
Yeah, totally agree. What did you make of the substitutions? Because I mentioned in my reaction show straight after the game, I've also mentioned it in my review of the game and my player ratings video, that I was disgusted with the substitutions, because it just gave that feel of giving up, that there was nothing to hope for. And, there were, when he took Almiron and St. Maximin off, there was still 15 minutes of the game left. Now, Man United have been prone to conceding late goals this season. They haven't been playing very well at home. you know, it just seemed to me that Steve Bruce holding them off, and this as if to say, well, the game's gone. We may as well rest them. And personally, I don't agree with resting any players now between now and the end of the season, because we need them. We need our best 11 on the pitch.
Definitely. That's something that Bruce does quite often, though. He just kind of like admits defeat before he's even given a chance to turn things round. Like, there'll be a big chunk of the game left and he just acts like it's already done. It's a really bad attitude to have, which definitely rubs off onto the players, and that's just, again, a massive problem that is taking us down. The substitutions he makes are always very questionable, and he makes them too late in the game most of the time when they don't have a chance to have an impact.
Yeah, they don't make any sense, do they? They really don't. I mean, it's not as if, you know, he changed it up or did anything dramatic at Man United. He pulled two of our best players off. Granted, they weren't having the greatest of games second half, but, you know, you've got to leave our best players on the pitch. Keep your comments coming in, guys. I will obviously read some out, but I'll flash them all up on the screen as well. If you do enjoy the show, please do hit the like button. And if you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe to the channel. Super chats are now available on this channel. So like I said before, 80% of the funds that are raised through the super chat system will be going to Parkinson's UK, and 20% of the channel. So thank you very much if you've already sent super chats to the channel. I really do appreciate it. Bruce Out says, if we get relegated this season, it will have massive consequences, not only for the football club, but for the whole area, especially with this COVID pandemic, as there will be huge losses to revenue, etc. Mike Ashley's just dicing with death, isn't he, Holly? I mean, you know, we know what happened with Steve McLaren when he waited too long. He brought Rafa in with about, 8 or 9 games left. It was too late for even Rafa to turn it around. And the fact of the matter is, we haven't got a Rafa in the waiting to come in now. And, like my show said last night, we talked about whether Steve Bruce would stay in charge. It just seems like there's nothing to look forward to at the minute.
Yeah, that's the scary thing. It will have a massive impact on us as a club, because if we go down, there's not a Rafa Benitez or anyone similar to that to come and save us and get us back up, and I don't think we would come back up. We need to sort it out now while we have a chance to. But yet again, he's left it too late, this is the worst thing about the club for me, like the board, I mean, is that
definitely
they say, like, oh, we've learned from mistakes, but they never have, because they just keep constantly repeating the mistakes. And Mike Ashley's always branded as this excellent businessman, but he's quite clearly not, because he's literally putting his investments at threat, because if we go down this season, he's going to make a massive loss and he won't get his sale to go through. So he's not that clever as a businessman, is he?
Well, you would think not, but I mean, surely the guy wouldn't be where he was in today's business if he didn't have his head screwed on in business. Well, he's known as this ruthless businessman, but this ruthless businessman is now in trouble of losing multi-millions of pounds, because if we get relegated, he's not going to get his value for the club. There's one man I think can save us, Holly. I don't know whether you've seen this photo going around Twitter, but whoever made it is an absolute genius.
Yeah,
John Linton.
I've seen it about the t-shirts. I said that he suits that haircut. It's
incredible, isn't it? How just somebody's put Joe Linton's haircut on top of John, and he actually suits it. Just bizarre. I mean, we talked about the likes of Eddie Howe and people like that coming possibly, to replace Bruce. But Eddie Howe's now linked with Celtic. Nigel Pearson's gone to Bristol City, and he's had a fantastic start there. They destroyed Middlesbrough on Tuesday night. So the actual lack of managers out there who would actually come into the club now is very sparse, isn't it?
Yeah, but even before then, I don't think that was very realistic, because not that those type of managers wouldn't come to the club, because they would. It's just in the current situation, under the current ownership, I don't think many managers would, unless the Steve Bruce standards are below, which we don't need.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff going around Twitter today about the takeover's off, this is on. It's just all rumours at the minute. And I think any manager that would sort of look at the rumours going around Newcastle United at the minute, is it on, is it off? Have I got a future? Would I come in till the end of the season and then I would be sacked? You've got to feel for these guys, because they truly don't know what's going to happen with the club. So Mike Ashley may well pull the trigger on Steve Bruce. I have a feeling that there's an international break in 4 matches' time. And I feel like if Steve Bruce hasn't done anything in that time, or we have got very little points on the board, I think he might use that period to pull the trigger and bring someone else in. But is that too late?
For me, yes. I don't know what you think, but
I think it's too. I already think it's too late, to be honest, if we pull the trigger now. But I'm just thinking ahead and trying to get in Mike Ashley's head and think, right, when is he going to hit the panic button and think, Christ, we are going down. I'm going to lose millions. But then again, he could turn around and say, well, Steve Bruce has been a decent manager in the Championship, so we may as well just keep him.
That's exactly what I think will happen. I don't think, even if we lost every game for the rest of this season, I think he'd still be here, because in Mike Ashley's eyes, he's a decent Championship manager who for Mike Ashley, would probably think, oh, he could get us back up, so he'll just stick with him, but he won't get us back up.
No. I mean, I said last night, if we did stick with Steve Bruce, it's not like we have a Rafa Benitez who has pulling power to bring players in that would get us back up into the Premier League. We would be stuck with a rotten squad. Plus, you've got to take into consideration there's 12 players out of contract or something like that in the summer. They're not going to want to stick around in the Championship. So he'd have to have a huge squad rebuild. But does Steve Bruce have the pulling power that some other managers do? No, he doesn't. And that's would be completely stuck. Geordie says, good evening, everyone. If we lose to Wolves on the weekend and the board decides to finally wake up and sack Bruce, who would you like to see replace Bruce, being realistic? Well, we've just spoke about the likes of Eddie Howe and Pearson disappearing into the sunset. Is there anybody you could think of, Holly, or would you give Graham Jones a shot?
Until the end of the season, I would, and then bring in another replacement in the summer, because I think it will be. I don't think he could do any worse than Bruce, and I don't think we'll get anyone. So yeah, I would.
I'm with you on that one. I think Graham Jones would be a good appointment till the end of the season. The players obviously have some trust in him, which is good to see. And he's very vocal as well. And I think at the minute Steve Bruce is denying him that chance to be vocal during a match day after what happened at Everton. So I think if Bruce isn't there, Graham Jones could be that vocal motivator that we need on the touchline. So I'm with you. I'd give Jones the job till the end of the season. If we went down, maybe I'd stick with Jones. I don't know, because the manager list is, I mean, it seems to be only dinosaurs that are left on the sidelines at the minute. So, it could be anybody. Jake said, more excited for this game than I am of our game against Villa. The stakes are absolutely massive. Well, thanks for that, Jake. You don't need to put the pressure on anymore. You can watch your lead side beat the Villa. I'll be happy with that. But, don't put the pressure on us any more than we need to. I mean, I said in my preview video, which is now on the channel if you want to go and see that after the show, I actually said that we could be 3 points behind Fulham by the time we kick off, but I forgot Fulham are playing on Sunday. So somebody corrected me that in the comments. But if we go into the bottom three, Holly, can you realistically see us getting out with the players we've got? Are those players the kind of players that Newcastle United need in the trenches when we really need them? No.
I think if we go in that bottom three, we'll just find it harder and harder as the weeks go by to get out of it. And I don't think we will get out of it. I think we will go down, sadly.
Steve Bruce, good evening, Steve. Well, have to roll our sleeves up if we get anything against Wolves on the weekend, that's for sure. Yes, Steve, that is just state the obvious, mate. State the obvious. I don't know who this Steve Bruce is, by the way. Ollie, good evening to you, mate. Looking forward to another good show. Bruce out. Yeah. Will, good evening, mate. Hey, Paul, hope you're having a great day. Yeah, Will does all my thumbnails now and backgrounds, etc. So big up to Will. He's doing a fantastic job with them at the minute. Certainly better than I've been doing. So thanks very much for doing all them, Will. It's much appreciated, my friend. Matthew, good evening. Still in the changing room, Paul? Yeah, I'm stuck here. It's like a purgatory system for me. I'm just stuck here. I can never get out. The only time I see life is when Joe Linton's in getting a massage off John. So unfortunately, I'm stuck here at the minute. I am going to get some new backgrounds. Don't worry. It's starting to. We've planted some seeds, shall we say? Tom says Bruce first 63 games, won 18, drawn 15, lost 30. Goals for, 64, goals against, 101, 0.69. And then if you compare it with Rafa, it's not much different. Rafa didn't have as many points, but other than the goals against column, where Bruce is clearly worse, these records are identical. they are identical, but it depends what kind of season you're looking at, Tom, because at the minute, Rafa didn't have us in 17th and staring relegation in the face. So football was different under Rafa. Yes, it was very defensive, but it was a lot more organised. And right now, we're in the situation where we need points more than performances, Holly.
Yeah. The difference is between Rafa and Bruce is that when we were in the bottom three, which we were at points under Rafa Benitez, I was never actually worried that would go down. I was always confident that would manage to sort it out and stay up. But under Bruce, you don't have that type of confidence. You just think we'll go down.
It was the way that I think Rafa spoke about the club as well, wasn't it? The way he embraced the city, the fans, the area itself. He did a lot for the charities up here. He made himself available to a lot of people. When he spoke in press conferences, he didn't big up the other teams. He spoke very highly of his own and what we were going to try and do rather than what the opposition was going to do to us. It's a completely different animal with Steve Bruce because the man is so negative to Newcastle. This is supposed to be Steve Bruce's boyhood club, and it just isn't, is it? If we're realistic, it's not his boyhood club. He doesn't support Newcastle United, no matter what he says. He slipped up with that when he was Sunderland manager. He clearly stated that he wasn't a Newcastle fan. That's come to bite him on the arse. And, it's just... Here you go again. It's the usual crap with Steve Bruce, Holly, that I think has really turned the fans against him.
Yeah, it makes a massive difference about how you talk about the club. Like with Rafa Benitez, because he had confidence in his own players and he was proud to represent Newcastle United.
Yeah.
That mentality was the same as the players because they, adapted that and they thought, oh yeah, we will be okay, we'll manage to stay up, we'll try our best and we're proud to wear this shirt. But under Bruce, he's just constantly belittling the club and just seeing that practically everyone's better than us. So then the players think the same because they go into the game thinking, oh, well, we're not going to get anything because this team's so great and we're just Newcastle.
Totally right. Totally right. And I think that's what I was going to say, that Rafa gave the players sort of the belief that they could do it. They were very organised, but he also made them realise what the black and white shirt meant, what the badge meant, what the fans meant. Steve Bruce doesn't get any of that. Matt says, is that the 18-19 shirt you've got on tonight, Paul? It is indeed, my friend. I've just ordered another one today when back in the day we were sponsored by Wonga, so that one's on its way. Just making a collection of football shirts again. Tom says, Mike Dean is referee for the weekend and Kevin Friend is on VAR. I don't think we could have two worst officials to be on our game, Holly, than them two.
Definitely not. I could certainly see a red card for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Mike Dean is words escape me for how bad he is of a referee. And the fact that he's so stubborn as well. I mean, that incident at Fulham, don't get us wrong, he shouldn't have got the death threats or anything on Twitter. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about his refereeing ability. And to go and look at the VAR screen and still send him off after standing in front of the VAR screen for 10 minutes, it just beggars belief. And I think we're in trouble. I really do. Martin says, good evening, Paul. Evening, Holly. Matt says, Joe Linton is just a bucket of something. I presume that was coming out there, but he stopped typing. Jake says, Paul and Holly, I think it's safe to say there are similar signs to the last time you were relegated. Are there any positives this season that weren't there in 2015-16? For me, no, there is no positives. The 2015-16 season, when Rafa was there, we always thought we had a chance of escaping relegation. There was always a bit of belief, but it was just too late. But the fact is, the last game of the season, Holly, I don't know if you can remember it, against Tottenham when we smashed them. The atmosphere in that ground was as if we won the league. And that's the kind of thing that Rafa did for the fans. We were singing, Rafa, don't go, please stay. It was just it was an incredible atmosphere for a team that had just been relegated. But that's the kind of persona that manager had. And we don't have with Steve Bruce, Holly.
I remember that game well when we beat Tottenham 5-1. It was an amazing game. It was completely like all the worry of relegation had just gone. And when Rafa Benitez came, I wasn't so worried about getting relegated. Like, even when we did, I wasn't that worried because I thought, we'll be okay. We'll get back up under this manager because I had so much faith in him. And it just felt very different last time. It's worse this time for me because last time I did have that you know, that mentality, oh, it'll be fine, everything will be okay, it'll get sorted out. Whereas this time, I don't see anything but negativity, and I can't see us coming back up, and I just think it's going to have a really bad long-term effect on the club.
Yeah. Totally agree. Martin says the trouble is YouTube don't take 50%, Martin, they take 30. So I get 70% of any anything like that. If you want to donate to my PayPal, then it's I'll put the PayPal up in the comments if I can do that at some point, or I might just leave that till the next show. But you know, I've mentioned before, I'm trying to raise around £500-600 for Parkinson's. YouTube do take 30%, but I understand that they've got to make the money, haven't they? So 70% obviously goes to the YouTuber. So I still make quite a bit. You know, 30% isn't that much really. But thanks for bringing that up, Martin. I will put my PayPal on here next time. But you know, I'm not making people use super chats anyway. The option's there if people want to help the channel and help the organization, the charity that I'm trying to save money for. That's fine. Nobody has to do it though. The Dugout Football Channel says congratulations on 1K. Thank you very much. Matt says Joe Linton has been spotted in Asda last night. He crapped himself in one of the aisles and the manager had to wipe his arse in front of everyone. This is what we get now, Holly, on this channel. This is how low it's gone. You know, the Monday night show now, I don't know whether you saw last Monday, John got hammered again. You know, he's never ever going to lose this Joe Linton thing. Bless him. But he takes it in good spirits. Dave, good evening to you. Hi, Paul and Holly. Hope you're both well. Let's read some more comments out. Michael says Joe Linton rumoured to be in Saudi Arabia. God, he gets around a bit. Smash that like button, guys. Yes, thanks very much, Martin. I appreciate that. Geordie says, don't think the latest about Joe Biden and Bin Salman is helping the rumours going around. Have you heard them rumours today, Holly?
No.
It's something around Bin Salman has ordered somebody or has in the past ordered somebody to be eradicated, shall we say. I don't know how true this is, but it's again just daft rumours going around about Saudi Arabia, which it isn't going to help the takeover, but you know, there's nothing we can do about that. Sickly Cloud says Steve Bruce should have been sacked months ago. I think he should have gone after the Sheffield United game, Holly.
Yeah, he should have went a while ago, certainly before the new year.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just the performance at Sheffield United was so dreadful. I really don't know how he's still in the job after that. If I was chairman of a football club and I saw my team playing like that, I mean, let's face it, his compensation isn't a lot when you think about how much other managers are going to charge. You know, you know, I mean, can you imagine what the compensation is like for Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp? You know, we're talking about £1.5 million here to a billionaire who is, you know, I said last night, it's like taking a tenner out of my wallet for Mike Ashley, but he's just so stingy. He won't do it. It's criminal. Jake says if Bruce remains manager in the Championship, Newcastle will remain a Championship team. Yep, that's what you said, Holly, and I think pretty much everyone agrees with you on that one without a shadow of a doubt. My comments have gone crazy again. Matt says Steve Bruce is a major fraud in the footballing world. He is on average lasts under 2 years in a job. He's the most useless see you next Tuesday managers in the Premier League. He is. He's one of the worst, isn't he, Holly? You know, I mean, I think he's one of the worst in the top 2 divisions.
Yeah, he's very, very lucky to have this job, and I think he realises that he should be nowhere near any Premier League team. Probably League One or bottom half of the Championship's his standard.
Yeah, without a doubt. Michael Hastings says, give Jones the rest of the season and the security still has coaching job next season. I think he would instill some confidence and discipline in this team without Bruce there to limit him. Yeah, we said that before, didn't we, about how vocal he is on the sidelines, Holly, and that, you know, he could possibly give that inspiration to the squad.
He's a lot more vocal than Steve Bruce, and that's what we need, especially when you're in a relegation battle. And like I said, he can't do any worse, so why not give him a go?
Yeah. Right, we'll move away from Mr. Bruce for now, and we'll talk about the upcoming game on Saturday night, 8 o'clock kickoff at St James's Park, where we take on Wolves. I've put my team out on my preview video today. It's a little bit different. I'll tell you what my team was, Holly, because I don't know if you've seen it or not. I've gone with Dubravka. I think there's a lot of whispers about him coming back anyway. That they finally decided to, you know, pull the trigger on Darlow, which, you know, I'm not going to say bad things about Darlow. He's won us so many points this season. It is unreal, but I think we need the best goalkeeper back in the team. I've gone for Jacob Murphy at right back, simply because Kraft is absolutely pathetic and is not a footballer. And Jacob Murphy's the only one that could possibly come in at right back and do a job. I've gone for Jamal Lewis at left back. Now, I didn't really want to play him there, but if I think about who is going to go up against Traore and his pace, there's only really Lewis got any pace to keep up with him. I've gone for Fernandez and Clark in the middle, drop Lascelles. But again, I don't think he'll drop Lascelles because he's captain and he loves them. Midfield, I've gone for Matty Longstaff and Isaac Hayden in the sitting roles, just in front of the back four. I've gone for Joe Willock as the number 10. I've gone for Almiron on the right. Now, I know he's not a right winger, but I would expect him to cut in a lot and give him kind of a free role because he's got Murphy behind him to cross the balls as well. Left-hand side, St. Maximan, and up front, I've gone for Andy Carroll because I think Gale is not, for me, he's not my kind of player. Andy Carroll would rough them up a little bit as long as we got balls into the box. So it's like a 4-2-3-1 with Willock in an expanded role moving forward a lot more than he is defending.
I think you're pretty much fine with that, to be fair. I can't actually disagree with any of it. I'd probably do the same.
What have you thought about any formations that would work against Wolves, given how, I mean, I know Wolves are a very sort of on and off team this season, aren't they? You know, sometimes they're blistering, but they've been on a really bad run of late, but then they've, you know, they went and won at Southampton last week. They've just a very strange team at the minute, but where do you think Wolves could get at us?
The midfield is an area that I think is a weakness for us because they're just never good enough, and then that knocks onto the defence because when the midfield's easy to get past, then the defence has too much pressure on them and we fall apart there. So quite a few areas really, but if Fernandez and Clark were centre back, then I'd feel a lot more comfortable than if it was Lascelles there, so I wouldn't be as worried.
He's gone so far backwards, Jamal Lascelles, hasn't he? And I think even despite him being captain, he just, I can't describe into words his lack of leadership skills anymore because, you know, when we fall behind, his head drops before any of the other players. And, you know, if you're a player out there and you see your captain's head drop, then what does that send out a message to the rest of the team? But the thing that worries me about the Wolves game is their wingers. They've got Pedro Neto and they've got Traore on the other side. Now, we all know Traore is like a rhino. He just puts his head down, kicks the ball and he runs. Jamal Lewis has got to be very careful with his tackling because we know he isn't a very good tackler at the minute. He mistimes so many tackles. And then you got Pedro Neto on the other side who, God forbid, Emil Kraft plays, he'll just make a mockery of.
A left back against any other side, I'd probably put Paul Dummett in. But like you say, with Wolves being very fast paced, you'd probably have to go with Jamal Lewis because Paul Dummett hasn't got that speed, so he would just outrun him.
I mean, I know Dummett did have a bit of pace about him, didn't he? And, you know, he did used to chase back and make some good sliding tackles and things like that. But now, after all these injuries, and he's been out for so long, I just wouldn't have any trust with him with the pace. And it's frightening, really. But like you say, if Fernandez and Clark are in the middle, we've got some sort of backup there that we know those two put the bodies on the line every time the ball comes near the penalty area. Lascelles, not for me, doesn't quite do that. So for me, that it has to be them two. But I don't think Steve Bruce has got the balls, Holly, to drop Jamal Lascelles.
I think he will stick with him just because he's that captain. But I would like to think that he'll see that he hasn't been as good as he used to be and drop him. Like, because obviously I thought he was going to keep Jeff Hendrick in the side and then he didn't. He dropped him. So hopefully he just has the same outlook with Lascelles and sees that it is an issue. But if I was a betting person, then I'd probably think that he would keep him in. Yeah.
So who would you go for up front? Would you go for Carroll? Would you go for Gale? Or would you go for Big Joe?
Definitely Andy Carroll.
Right.
I would have said Gale, like I said Gale for the last game. But then just because he was so poor when he did play a couple of games ago, then I said, like, no, I don't want to stick with him and I'll probably give Andy Carroll a go because at least, if nothing else, he'll try. He's one of the only players in the squad that I think will always try to give 100%.
I think I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what the thing is with Gale with me, but I've always thought that his stats prove that he's better in the Premier League. Championship. If you look at his goals to games ratio in the Championship compared to the Premier League, it far outweighs the Premier League. His Championship goals. I've heard a lot of people saying, well, he never gets a run in the side, or he was played out of position at Chelsea. But surely, Callum Wilson started on the right-hand side, when we played the three. Miggy was in the middle, so he had ASM on one side and he had Wilson on the other, and Wilson was still effective, but I just think Dwight Gale just isn't that effective anymore. He's not that kind of player.
He's not. I've always said that, no disrespect to him, but he is a Championship striker and he's excellent for any side that's chasing promotion. And I think, to be honest, I would keep a hold of him, because if we might need him if we do go down, because I'd certainly want him there then. But if we were to stay up, I'd probably move him on, because I don't think he's good enough at this level. He
is out of contract in the summer, and I'm not sure he would stay even if he went down. If he was offered a new contract, I think maybe he'd be looking for pastures new, but who knows? Michael says records are similar, but major difference is how much Bruce has spent compared to Rafa. Shame paid pundits don't state that. That's a good point. Rafa had hardly anything to spend. Bruce has had 120 million or something. So there is a big difference there. And if you look at it that way, the amount of money that Steve Bruce has spent compared to Rafa, yet Rafa has matched Steve Bruce kind of thing. There's only one winner, so it's Rafa. Matthew says, Higgity hump, Joe Linton needs a thump. What is he is? A big lump. Matthew, I didn't know you were a poet, mate, but well done. Well done. Stephen says, hi, Paul and Holly. John says, Tom Dixon, what is your point? Bruce is better than Rafa FFS. I don't think that's what he's trying to say. I know Tom isn't really a Steve Bruce fan either. I just think he's trying to sort of, compare the two in a way that if you look stats-wise, that's probably what the pundits are looking at as well. However, like we've just said, the money spent by Steve Bruce is so much more than what Rafa got, Holly, and that's the difference. That Rafa has managed to get the same amount of points as Steve Bruce, yet had no money to spend.
I'd never understand why they get compared, because they're both in completely different positions. Rafa came when we were probably at one of the lowest points in the past few years, with a bad squad. Then we had to get rid of quite a few of our best players and bring in new ones. Yeah. And he got us up, which Bruce couldn't do. First season back, he got us 10th, which Bruce hasn't done and won't do. And then he got us 13th. And I think his net spend while he was here, I think it was around -2 million. So there's just no comparison.
Yeah, it was
whatsoever.
-2. Yeah. You can't compare them, can you? Because when you look at it that way, there is just no comparison. Jake says Rafa stayed with Newcastle in the Championship because he loved the club, the city, and the fans. Ashley looked the biggest gift horse in the mouth when he let Rafa go. Of course he did. We all know that. And it was just because of Mike Ashley's stubbornness and the fact that, the whole Joe Linton thing was a major factor in Rafa going as well. Rafa knew that there wasn't a player there and didn't want him at the club yet. Mike Ashley went to spend 40 million quid on the kid, but it's all water under the bridge now, unfortunately. Andrew says, I thought it was on. I must need glasses, Will. Not sure what he's talking about. Jody says, Dubravka is a no-brainer. He has to come back in the starting 11 against Wolves on the weekend. I think you're in the same boat, Holly. I think you want Dubravka back in as much as anybody. It's a shame for Carl Darlow as well, isn't it? But, I think if Darlow now is going to sit the rest of the season out, does Darlow look for a new club next season?
Yeah, I wouldn't want him to, because he's an excellent number 2. But for him, he'll want to go, because he can easily get first team football at another club. So why would he stay here just to sit on the bench?
Yeah, he is good enough to get into other Premiership teams. If you see the state of the goalkeeping this season, Everton could he could go to Everton. Everton is a team, and Pickford's having a dreadful time of it at the moment, and his arms aren't going to get any longer either. So he's in big trouble of losing his place. So I think he fit in well with Everton. And there's other clubs certainly in mid-table issue who are looking probably for goalkeepers next season. And he could be spoiled for choice, really, couldn't he? But we'll see. We'll see. Thanks very much, everybody, for watching tonight. If you do enjoy the show, do hit the like button. Please do subscribe to the channel, and Super Chat is available if you want to donate to the channel. So thank you in advance for that. And also, if you want to follow Holly on Twitter, it's at HollyBlades05, and that's in the description below. John says, if Bruce really loves Newcastle, he would just walk away and just retire. He is a dinosaur as a manager. Bruce out. Yeah. I'm not looking forward to the game at West Brom, Holly, because I think that is going to be the worst game of football that we've ever seen. Sam Allardyce against Steve Bruce could be an absolute, well, a cure for insomnia, won't it?
Yeah, probably. I tipped us for a win against West Brom, but
right.
I feel like just because now that Sam Allardyce is there, that worries us more, because I think he's like going to manage to pull something off, just kind of as like karma, because obviously we've all slated him in the past.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. David says, hi, Paul and Holly. Good evening, David. Matthew says, I'd take Neil Lennon at Newcastle. Looks to be a passionate guy. He could get an uproar from the players. He was mentioned last night when I was talking about the management situation at Newcastle, and there was a few people mentioned Neil Lennon. I'm not as confident as other people that Neil Lennon is or would be the right man for the job. I think, yes, he's got a bit of passion about him and things like that, but I don't think Neil Lennon's the type of manager we would need right now if Bruce was to be sacked, Holly.
No, like I said, I would just probably give it to Graham Jones till the end of the season and then bring in a replacement, because I don't think we'll get the right replacement in right now.
I just think, you know, his management has been in Scotland with Celtic, who, to be fair, a lot of them years Rangers weren't around. They had to work their way back up the leagues, and, you know, it's been a very, very tough task for Rangers to get back. And once they got into the Premier League in Scotland again, they've had to rebuild again, which I think Gerrard's done an excellent job. But there wasn't really any pressure on Neil Lennon because it was a cakewalk for Celtic. I think he's failed in Europe numerous times with Celtic, and I'm not sure he would be the man to pull us out of the crap, really. Steve Bruce says you'll be singing Bruce Don't Go after the Fulham match. I very much doubt that, Steve. I love your positivity, mate, but I doubt it. Andy Woodman is apparently the bloke Ashley wants to replace me. Yeah, okay. I'm not taking anything you say seriously, Steve, but thank you very much. Thomas says, I hope everyone is well. We are, mate. Thank you very much. John B says, Joe Linton is not a footballer. He's more like a BR dancer. What's a BR dancer, Holly?
It's the Brazilian emoji.
Oh, Brazilian dancer. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm not up to emojis, Holly. You must understand that. I don't. I'm not quite up to scratch with emojis. The laugh and crying one is about the only thing I use at the minute. Matthew says, what would you do if you saw Joe Linton smashing up your house? Well, I don't think we will, Matthew, to be fair. Jake says, Bill Salmon is kicking himself. He was actually going for Joe Linton. Oh, God, that's terrible. Evening, Paul and Holly, from Paul. David says, if you push is at the club when we go down to the Championship, we will go down to only one. I've no doubt about it. Fair enough. Paul J, thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate that, mate. Thank you. Andrew says Joe Biden should concentrate on getting his country back together, not getting on his high horse. It's all down to money, simple as that. I think this is what's going on between the US and Saudi Arabia at the minute. So I'll have to read up on that. Lee said, had Bruce not been captain to Fergie's Man United, won numerous honours with them. I honestly don't think he would be managing in the Premier League or even the Championship. Yeah, I mean, a lot of reputation goes on, you know, these ex-players coming into the management, and some succeed, some don't. Steve Bruce has had a long time at this job. But, you know, had he not been... The thing that gets me, Holly, is he's worked for a manager like Alex Ferguson. You know, he's seen what Alex Ferguson is like in the dressing room. He's seen how successful he is. Yet he can't sort of bring any of those traits to his own job.
No, he certainly hasn't picked up any tips from anyone. You would think that he'd been playing in the non-league or something with just random guys as his manager. Like, you wouldn't think he'd work with the likes of Alex Ferguson, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. If we look back at Wolves on Saturday, Holly, who would you put in the midfield if you were... I mean, I've said Matty Longstaff, I've said Isaac Hayden, and I've said Joe Willock in a kind of number 10 role, but... would you bring anybody else in? I mean, you know, Jeff Hendrick's there.
No, I think I would do the same as you.
Yeah. I thought you would. I don't think you would have even dared say bring Jeff Hendrick in. Matthew says, does anyone realise there's players in the squad that go in the wilderness for months and suddenly appear out of thin air and have a good game, then go back into the wilderness? Yes, we do, Matthew. And Matty Longstaff is one of those players. He's brought in, he does a good job, and then he's out of the squad for weeks on end. Nobody can not convince me, Holly, that something has gone on with the Longstaffs. I know there's rumours that Sean had a big falling out with him after the Sheffield United game. But something's gone on with those two brothers for them to be out of the squad or on the substitutes bench and just not used at all.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. Both of them have hardly had a chance at all, and he was picking like Jeff Hendrick and stuff over him when he was just horrendous, and the midfield was so poor. We'd had injuries, and yet he still kept them out the side. So something must have happened, otherwise he would have had them in.
Matthew says Pedro Neto will rip Emil Kraft in Newcastle. I think he will, and that's my worry. If Emil Kraft is in the team on Saturday, because the Wolves manager Santo, whatever his name is, Nuno, I'll call him. He's a very astute manager, so he will have done his homework on Newcastle, won't he? And he'll know where the weak spots are to attack our defence, and it's clearly the two fullbacks. But mainly, if Emil Kraft plays, he'll just tell Pedro Neto to get the ball and just keep running at him because, 9 out of 10 times he's going to beat him.
Yeah, like any team, you could watch us once and see that we're struggling right back and left back because none of our players are good in that position. I mean, Manquillo's okay, but obviously we don't have him at the minute.
Yeah.
It's just, they'll definitely target us in that position.
It's frightening. It really is. Stu says, my most important qualities for an NUSA manager are 1, can organise a defence, 2, can inspire and command respect, and 3, unify the fans. Rafa was ideal, but what about my John Terry suggestion? I would love to see somebody like John Terry. I know, in his playing days, a lot of people disliked him for various different reasons on and off the pitch. But John Terry, for me, he's probably learnt the role at Aston Villa now. He's gained a lot of confidence, and I think it's not too long before he becomes a manager. But again, we come to this stumbling block is, would somebody like John Terry come and work for Mike Ashley and come to Newcastle in the situation they're in, Holly?
No. Certainly someone that's just starting out in management wouldn't want to do that because it's probably one of the hardest jobs you could take in football at the minute. And for a first job, you wouldn't want to put that on yourself because you could literally ruin your reputation and not get another job after that.
Yeah, definitely. John Sinclair, good evening, buddy. Hope you're well, brother. Evening, my guys. Big up to you. Hope you're well. In my honest opinion, the Cells needs dropping. He's been poor off late. It's a must-win game. I'd go for Clark and Fernandez all day long. Hope you got Joe Linton doesn't start, mind. Your guy. Well, it's your guy, John. Your guy, Joe Linton. We know that you're a massive, massive fan of Joe Linton on and off the pitch. I totally agree with you, though. Lascelles does need dropping. It's like I said earlier in the show, I think we need our best players on the pitch, and I do believe that Clark and Fernandez are better defenders than Jamal Lascelles. If we've got Dubravka back in goal as well, Holly, he's a lot more vocal. He'd organise the defence a bit better, and I think the defenders would feel a lot more comfortable with Dubravka because he is that vocal and he can tell them where they need to be. Yeah,
Darlow is undoubtedly a good keeper, but for me, Dubravka's just a class above him. Like, I don't think anyone outside of the top 6 teams as keepers could come anywhere close to Dubravka. To be honest, he's probably better than some of them. I think he could play in Champions League. I really rate him. I'm a massive fan of his. So
yeah, definitely, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, Dubravka, yes, he's made the odd mistake now and again, but who doesn't? I think it's just that if goalkeepers make mistakes, the more the more media attention it gets, simply because if a goalkeeper makes a mistake, it normally leads to a goal. If a player makes a mistake, they get away with it 9 out of 10 times because it doesn't lead to a goal. Sometimes it does, but majority of times it doesn't. And I think that's where, Dubravka's, a lot of people have said, oh, well, Dubravka's made mistakes as well, but it's not about that. It's about how solid he is in goal, how much more relaxed the defenders are in front of him because he's vocal, and we just miss that kind of goalkeeper at the minute. Stu says Terry is obviously wanting an opportunity at management soon. Yeah, he is, definitely. But he's not going to be stupid about it. He's going to be very astute. He'll know when his time has come. He'll know when he's ready. And I just don't think you'll see Newcastle United in the battle that they're in at the minute as something that he can turn into a project. Maybe further down the line, if there's an opportunity at a club like Newcastle, he would take it as long as they were in the Premier League. Or if we go down and we get rid of Bruce, then maybe John Terry could come in because he's been in the Championship with Villa as well. He knows the Championship, so it's not a bad shout. But at this present time, he's just, for me, not the guy. Paul says Dubravka and Woodman for next season in goal. I'm not sure whether Freddie Woodman's going to sit on his backside either. He's getting first-team football at Swansea this season, Holly, and he's doing very, very well. And I don't think he's going to be wanting to come back and sit on his backside.
I can see him going back out on loan, especially if Darlow does stay. But I think he's signed 5-year deals, didn't he?
He did. But obviously, when you go out on loan and you're getting first-team football and, Swansea, I'm not sure where they are in the Championship at the minute, but he's getting rave reports down there. Swansea may put a bid in for him at the end of the season. Who knows? He might want out because he might look and say, well, at present, he's got Darlow, he's got Dubravka, he's also got Gillespie in front of him. So, he's not going to want to come back and sit on his backside when he's been getting regular first-team football. Sickly Cloud said, whoever bought Jamal Lewis into the club needs shot. He's proper shit. He's not. That's the thing. If you watch Norwich last season, he was a very, very, very good player in a bang-average Norwich City side. And this is what frustrates me. A lot of fans are thinking, oh, he's crap, he's shit, he's this, he's that. He's not, Holly, because anybody who watched him for Norwich last season will see that there is a very good defender there, but he's still very young. He needs good coaching. He needs nurturing in the Premier League. And he's not getting that kind of coaching from Steve Bruce and the rest of them, is he?
No, I didn't watch Norwich a lot last season. I only watched them twice, which is when they played us. But
yeah,
like from what I've heard and bits of clips that I've seen and stuff, he looked really decent. And I think that's the story for a lot of players on our team, is that aren't doing as well as they could because of the team around them and how they're being coached. They've got a lot more potential, but they just can't show it.
I mean, if you look at the tactics that Steve Bruce plays, he doesn't play to many of our players' capabilities and good points. He plays such negative football that a lot of these players aren't used to it. A lot of the players are just thinking, well, what are we doing here? Isaac Hayden, for example, at Sheffield United, clearly in the second half went over to Steve Bruce and said, what the hell are we doing? Or words to that degree. So it just proves that, not all of the players are agreeing with the way he's playing. And I just think his training methods are all wrong. We've heard rumours about what his training methods are like, not particularly good as well. So, we've got that to think about as well. It's not just, players are crap. You can't just say that. There's reasons for that. And when I watched Jamal Lewis for Norwich quite a few times last season, I was very impressed, I have to say, and I was quite looking forward to him being our new left back, and there was something to build on there. And I actually see him as a possible future England left back. He was that good. So, it's just swings and roundabouts, and unfortunately, he's not getting the coaching that he needs. Geordie says, see that Henry has left Montreal and returned back to London. Would you give him a chance at Newcastle? Not for me. I did put this question out on Twitter earlier today, and about 95% of the replies I got were no. He hasn't done it in management. He didn't do it really when he was at Monaco. He hasn't done it at Montreal as well. I don't think Thierry Henry is a man we want, Holly.
No.
There you go. Straight answer from Holly there. No. So there you go. Geordie, you've been told. Tom says, wonder what excuses Bruce will have tomorrow ahead of the weekend's game. I think are you doing the press conference thing with John on his channel tomorrow?
Yeah.
Right. So it'll probably be the usual stuff then. He'll come out with the same thing. For you and John doing this press conference reaction, it's just going to kind of be repetitive every week. It's going to be, well, he said that last week, he said this last week, and he said that last week. It's all the same, and it's just such a pain in the backside to hear the man talk. Matthew says, Dubravka's got to come back into the team now. Darlow is shaky and nervy. He worries the shit out of me. Dump him back on the bench. I think you've been a bit harsh on him there, Matthew, to be honest. But it's your opinion. Yes, we all want Dubravka back in. But I don't think Darlow's been too shaky. There's been times where he could have done a lot better with crosses. Definitely held on to them instead of punching them. He's flapped at a couple of things, but I think he's only started doing that since Dubravka got fit, and I think the pressure's been on him, Holly, to get to make sure he doesn't make mistakes.
That's what I was saying. It's hard for him to know that Dubravka's sitting on the bench, and it's so easy for him to lose his place because he could do one thing wrong and then he'll be out the team and Dubravka will come back in, so that will be putting a lot of pressure on him, and then that's how he'll be making mistakes.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Geordie says Dwight Gill is a decent forward, but he's not Wilson's level, that's for sure. He is a decent forward, but that's all he is, decent. And right now, we need more than decent to keep us in the Premier League. Andrew says, good evening, John Sinclair. John says, Gale is not good enough. Simples. Jake says, here's a radical thought, but what about Wayne Rooney as manager? Totally turned Derby around after they looked relegation bound, and he no doubt have the respect of the players. Maybe he's in the future, Jake, but, we're talking about if Steve Bruce was sacked between, in the next couple of games, who is going to step up to the plate as a manager. And I don't think Wayne Rooney would leave Derby at the minute anyway. He's got them going again, and he's working on a project there to try and build his reputation as a manager. And if he came to Newcastle, for me, it would probably just go down the spout, and he doesn't want that to happen. PD Proudlock, good evening, Peter. Hope you're well. Hi, Paul and Holly. Great to have Fernandez back, but I doubt he'll start because he's been out for a while, and we know what has happened before when we throw players straight back in the start. Yeah, you're right, Peter. I mean, it's very true, but at the same time, we need our best players on there now. We need players to go out there and just, even if they've got niggly injuries now, it's all about going out there and battling and actually trying to, get something out of the game. Ken, good evening, mate. Paul, with the team you have chosen, the only problem I see, and that is, as you say, Miggy has a roving role coming in from the right, and Murphy moves forward across the ball in. It will leave a huge gap in the right back position. I don't profess to know the answer. It seems like a problem we would be inviting on ourselves. Yeah, that's one thing I did worry about, Ken, is obviously if Miggy's cutting inside, Murphy's bombing forward. But the reason I put Murphy there is because I think if he bombs forward, Holly, he's got the pace to get back. If we lost the ball, he has the pace to come back and help out and defend.
Yeah, I think it's a good shout having him at right back, and he certainly can't do any worse than Emil Kraft, so you may as well give him a go, and if he's bad, then just take him off and bring Kraft back on.
But you're right, he can't be any worse than Kraft. That is the big difference. Emil Kraft is absolutely appalling for me and doesn't deserve a start. These last two games he's played, Werner made a mockery out of him, and it happened again against Manchester United. Rashford just tore him into him as well, and Pedro Neto will be licking his lips if Kraft's starting on Saturday. It'll be an embarrassment. John says, "Good girl, no comparison. Benitez not in the same class as Bruce." There you go. Somebody agreeing with you there, Holly.
I think that's an easy thing to say because,
of course, it is. I mean, there's just no comparison between Rafa and Steve Bruce. I mean, I'm past the point of comparing the two now. Anyway, I mean, it's pointless. It's water under the bridge. Rafa's not here, and that's the thing we need to think about. He's not here. He's not manager. So there's no point talking about the comparisons. We're stuck with Steve Bruce at the minute. Jake says, last season, Steve Bruce was dining out on the residual effects of Rafa's coaching. This season is a return to the mean, as they say. Yeah, that's a good point, Holly, that when Steve Bruce took over this team, it was very much Rafa's, and that we did quite well last season because it was Rafa's team. Now it's Steve Bruce's, and we're seeing a completely different setup.
Yeah, last season, I'd do anything to go back to how we were last summer gone. 13th, it's just kind of average, but it seems like absolutely amazing compared to now. I would happily take 13th or 15th or anything at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Matthew says, who would you say are the top 5 dinosaur managers in Premier League history? I'd have to have a think about that one, to be honest, Matthew, but Steve Bruce and Sam Allardyce are definitely in there. Joe Kinnear, without a shadow of a doubt, is in there. I mean, if you're meaning Newcastle managers, there's been a few over the years, but to name a top 5 is very difficult. Geordie says Jeff Hendrick has to start on Saturday with a laughing emoji. I know you're joking about that, Geordie, so we'll not take that any further. David says Carl Robinson for the show for me. Steve Bruce to sack. 1892 Mag says Shola Amiobi as manager.
No.
Pretty straightforward enough. No again. I agree with you on that one, Holly. There's no way I'd have Shola. Absolutely no way. Tom says, great to see Callum Wilson working hard in the gym, working really hard to get back on the pitch soon. And we really do need him, don't we? I mean, we really need Callum Wilson back as soon as possible.
It's worrying for me how much we relied on him. Like, if Callum Wilson had stayed fit, I think we probably could have stayed up. But the fact that one player is the difference between us staying up or getting relegated is a massive concern. We shouldn't be in that position. We really should have brought in a second striker.
Yeah, totally agree. I think, we made a big mistake in the transfer window in January, not bringing anybody else in as cover. 1892 Mag says, Matt Ritchie play manager until the end of the season. I've heard a few shouts for Matt Ritchie, actually, and he's certainly got the passion, without a shadow of a doubt. But, when we're in a relegation battle like this, we need a bit of experience, I think, at the end of the day. So, unfortunately, I don't think that Matt Ritchie would be the man. I think he's in the wilderness as it is anyway now. Something's gone on with him and Bruce as well. Jake says, issue with Darlow and Dubravka is we're at the point where one of them absolutely expects to be number one and will want away if they're not. So who do you choose? Well, Holly's already said that Dubravka straight away needs to stay, and I 100% agree. I don't think anybody would say keeping Darlow over Dubravka, no matter how good Darlow's been this season. We all know how good Martin Dubravka is, and that's the point. Tom says, can Alan St. Maximan and Miggy Almiron inspire Newcastle to victory this weekend? Holly?
I think that we'll get a draw. I don't think we could get the win. I really think we need the win if we're going to try and stay out this bottom three, but I can't see anyone inspiring us to win, so I think it'll be a draw.
I mean, I must admit, I'm at the point now where I'm not bothered about the performance. If we play awfully and that we score one goal off somebody's backside, a deflected shot, and we win 1-0, I don't care, as long as we win the game. It's all about points now for me, and we need them desperately. Geordie says Jamal Lewis was linked to Liverpool before us. Exactly. So, he was linked to Liverpool, and he was linked to a lot of top clubs. So, let's be honest here. I think he'd be a completely different player under a better manager. Henry could still bang in the goals, so I wouldn't want him as manager. Well, yeah, he'd probably do a better job than Joe Linton, let's be fair. I mean, everybody's saying, Joe Linton, his fans came out of the woodwork at the weekend and said, he did all right against Man United before he went off injured. And, I think I just don't see a player in there, Holly, anymore.
I'm not a Joe Linton fan, but he did play better than I thought he was going to. I thought he had a decent performance by his standard, which isn't a high standard, so it's not particularly a compliment to him. But sometimes he looks okay, but that's all he looks. He never looks better than okay, and that's not good enough for this level, so I would get rid of him as soon as we can.
Yeah, he doesn't inspire you with confidence, does he? He's not the player that you think, great, Joe Linton's coming on, we've got a chance. He's just not that kind of guy. Carl says, good evening, Paul and Holly. Hopefully Bruce gets COVID and quarantines for the next 4 games and then hands it over to his number 2. I don't want anybody of ill health. I must state that on here. Carl, I mean, I think these next 4 games are do or die for Steve Bruce. I really do. I think that it's if he doesn't get many points out of these 4 games with the international break coming up, I could well see him on the way out, and I'd be so happy about that. Ryan says, did you see Jermaine Gina say deluded shit about Newcastle the other day? Big up Jake Humphrey for actually waking up and smelling the coffee, unlike most pundits. Yes, I did. Did you see that, Holly?
Yeah, I thought it was shocking. It's so much worse when it comes from an ex-player as well.
I mean, ever since he's left Newcastle, I don't think he's had very much good to say about the club, the Goldfish Bowl and all of this. And, it's his own fault, really, isn't it? I mean, to say you're playing in a Goldfish Bowl when you've got 52,000 fans adoring you, I don't think that's a Goldfish Bowl situation. I think he should appreciate how lucky he was. Will says, maybe there should be a league called the Dinosaur League for all the shitty dinosaurs that play 5 at the back and have no mentality. Perfectly put, mate. Perfectly put. Score predictions, Geordie says either a 1-1 draw, 2-0 defeat. We've got about 5 minutes of the show left, guys, so thank you very much for your comments. If you have enjoyed the show, please do hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And there's still time to drop them super chats in, guys. Trying to raise as much money as I can for Parkinson's UK, and a little amount, 20% of that will go to the channel as well. What's your score prediction for Saturday, Holly? I know you said a draw, but what do you think it'll be?
1-1 for me, or 0-0, but I'll go 1-1 and be a bit more positive.
Yeah. I'm going for a 2-1 win. I've said, I predicted we beat Man United last week, and I predicted we beat Chelsea. But what the hell? You've got to show some confidence. I mean, the thing is, I think at this stage, any points on the board will do, whether it's a point or 3. We've got to get some points. And we know that Fulham are coming into a very difficult run of games after this weekend. So, we've got to hope. I think they play Palace this weekend, do they? Is it Palace they play? I'm not sure. But anyway, I know they've got Liverpool and Man City as well coming up. So if we can get some points on the board between now and then, just to pull us away from Fulham a little bit and maybe rock their confidence a little bit, but who knows? Thomas is going for a 2-1 Newcastle win. Well done. Paul says 2-1. Stephen, good evening, says 3-1 to Newcastle this weekend. Oh, that's optimistic. I'd love a 3-1 win, but that is optimistic. Who is worse, Phil Jones at defending or Joe Linton at attacking? I'd go for Joe Linton, to be honest. I think Phil Jones could actually play better than Joe Linton up front, if I'm honest. Jake says to the Joe Linton fans, well done. He played adequately for 45 minutes, then got injured. Give him Player of the Season award right now. I think that's a bit of a sarcastic remark towards the Joe Linton fans there from Jake. Mark, good evening, says Newcastle could sign Daniel Sturridge. Not for me. Daniel Sturridge, there's a reason why he's still a free agent, Holly. We don't want to turn St James's Park into an old people's home.
Yeah, he's too injury prone, and we don't need players like that. We've got enough problems with injury. We don't need someone else just blocking up the squad numbers and sitting on the bench doing nothing for a season. Yep,
exactly. Sickly says, just put Steve Bruce in goal. There's no chance the ball will go in. That's a good point. Tom says Newcastle must avoid slipping into the bottom 3 this weekend. I think if we do, we're in big trouble because I think we're, like I've said before, I think the confidence will just drop and it'll just be awful because I don't think we've got the players in the trenches to get us out of it. Geordie says, Jake Humphrey talks sense every single time about us. I think with him being an Orange fan helps compared to the rest who support top 6 clubs. Yeah, I mean, he always sticks up for the Newcastle fans, does Jake Humphrey. I have a lot of respect for him. Will says 0-0. Buster says 0-0. Newcastle fans TV, good evening to you. Go on, Paul, predicting them wins. Hey, I've got to try, guys. You know what I mean? It's I get called negative quite a lot because I never really have much good to say about Newcastle. Despite the situation we've been in this season, I've got to try and be positive. I've gone for 2 wins the previous 2 games, but any win will do for me. Or like we said before, Holly, any points on the board just to try and get us above Fulham, pulling away from them.
Yeah, even if we just keep picking up odd points here and there with draws, we should be okay as long as we just don't keep getting defeats. Like, I'd love to sit here and predict a win, but it's not what I actually think. So I'm not going to see it. But I do think we'll get a win in the next few games. I'll say that. So I'm not being totally negative.
Right, well, when you come back next Thursday for the Thursday Night Live show, we'll put you to the test, Holly, because, there's some apparent winnable games coming up. So let's just see how what the predictions are on that. Ryan says, Steve Bruce thought he bought Jamal Lewis and would turn into Robertson and buying from another relegated side. Robertson had to compete with Moreno for a while, and Lewis is thrown into the deep end. Yeah, he's got nobody there to help take the slack off him, has he? I mean, Dummett's been injured most of the season. Matt Ritchie, to a degree, can play left back, but he's not a proper left back. We just don't have any cover there for him, do we?
No, left back's been a problem for years. I was so gutted when we didn't get Jetro Willems because I thought he's the best left back we've had for a long, long time. I'd still like to see him come back, but he probably won't now.
Yeah.
But apart from Lewis, we literally have Ritchie and Dummett, which doesn't fill you with a lot of confidence, to be fair. Well, it doesn't for me anyway.
I was gutted Willems didn't come back for a number of reasons. I think he would be a brilliant player for us. He'd certainly, have the desire and effort to get us out of the relegation problems, but he would give a lift to the dressing room. He seems like that kind of character that the dressing room really needs, and that is missing at the minute. Sickly says 1-0. Jake says 2-1 Wolves. Sorry, lads and lasses. You go and stick your Leeds United sun up your backside, Jake. I predict 1-1 for you against Villa, by the way, but we'll see about that one. Tom says Newcastle to win 2-1. Last few comments before we end. No, nobody gives a damn about Fulham, but the problem is Fulham are the team that we've got to watch out for. Mark says 2-1 Newcastle. Train Son says, no craft, please. Might as well stick a strip on the corner flag. Well, that's where he normally ends up, isn't it? When he slides in for these big tackles, he obviously, he takes the corner flag out more than he does the opposition players. which is that just says it all about Emil Kraft. Lee says, is that Jason Donovan's new song, Any Win Will Do? I could bring that out. I could bring that out at the end of the season. If we stay up, I'll do Any Win Will Do as a song. And, I'll put it up on for download and everything, and let's raise some more money. Tom says Crystal Palace versus Fulham is a Sunday 12 o'clock kickoff. That's right. If Zaha leaves Palace, would you take him? Zaha? I
think you mean Zaha.
Oh, Zaha. I was going to say Zaha was long gone. No, I wouldn't. I'm not a real fan of Zaha. I think he'd rather throw himself to the floor. He's got ability, undoubtedly, but I don't think he's the kind of player that we need. We've got ASM as it is, and not for me. Holly?
If we stayed up and got in a new manager, then yeah, I would take him.
There you go. Mark says, Leeds fan here. I hope Newcastle stay up, as it would be nice to go to watch you and Leeds at St James's. Yeah, I've got a lot of Leeds fans who are friends, and made a lot of them on social media as well. And so looking forward to going back to the grounds. And it looks like next season, Holly, we could be back. After the lockdown ends in June, it's going to be that real opportunity for us now to go back next season. However, we don't know what league we're going to be in for one at the minute. And obviously, I don't think it's going to be a full house at St James's Park.
Probably not, depending on what happens. But I know that some people will be annoyed that I'm about to say this, but no matter what happens, I'm going straight back to that ground as soon as I can. I can't wait to get back personally, but each their own.
So am I. So, we'll get shouted down together, but I'm in the same boat as you. I'm going back. I do want to change my seat from where I used to sit at my season ticket. So I've been told now I've got to reapply. So I'm just going to wait till the website says you can reapply, and I'll be reapplying straight away. So there'll be no problems with that. I'm just going to sit somewhere else in the ground. Paul says, sorry, Paul, typo. That's all right. Jake says, sorry, Paul, just don't have faith in Bruce over Nuno. That's a good point, actually. Great show, Paul and Holly. And Will says, to be honest, I would take Zaha because him and Maxi would cause more trouble and he would create space, which means more goals, win-win. That's true. That's true. But can we fit St. Maximin and Zaha into the same team? I'm not so sure. Anyway, Holly, thanks very much for joining us again on Thursday Night Live. Hopefully you'll be back again next Thursday. I think we've got Sam coming on next Thursday as well if she's feeling a bit better. So that should be good to have her on as well. But let's hope we can get something at the weekend, Holly, and we're all smiling next week.
Hopefully. I was joking on saying it's my birthday on Saturday, so I hope Newcastle don't ruin it too much.
Right. Well, you have a cracking birthday, whatever, Holly, okay? And enjoy yourself as best you can in these times. And hopefully we'll speak soon over the weekend and we'll have 3 points on the board. But thanks very much for coming on again. You've been a star.
No problem. Thanks for having us on.
Take care. See you later. So that was Holly, and very, 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 very astute young lass there talking about Newcastle. She loves the club. She's brilliant to have on and get her input on things at Newcastle at the minute. From a different perspective, and like all you guys out there, we all have different opinions and things like that. But, I like to get different opinions on the show. Holly's now part of the Toon Review channel. And I value her input just as much as anybody else. So thank you to Holly again for coming on tonight. Couple more comments before we finish. Tom says, why didn't Newcastle go for Madja before Fulham? Exactly. I mean, this is the thing. We could have gone for these kind of players, Tom, but again, Steve Bruce let us down the whole club let us down in the transfer window, not just Steve Bruce. It came from all over the place. Jake says, cheers, guys. Always a pleasure. Will says, love this channel, mate. Thank you very much, Will. Thank you very much for all you do as well for the channel. It's not just who's on camera as well. It's who's behind the scenes as well, doing work for this channel. And you've jumped on board, mate, and you're doing a fab job behind the scenes. So thank you very much. Thomas, great stream. Tom says, I'm not going back in there till Bruce and Ashley go. Again, that's your opinion, Tom, and you're perfectly welcome to it, mate. I'm not going to shout anybody down who doesn't want to go back. If people don't want to go back until Ashley's gone, that is their prerogative, and I'll support them all the way. Me personally, I will be going back because I miss it. I want to go back. I can't wait to get back. But not everybody's of that opinion. They will wait till Ashley's gone, and that is their prerogative. And I'm totally okay with that. Geordie says, smash that like button, everybody. Thank you very much, Geordie. Yes, please do. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do that as well. That's it for tonight, guys. I want to thank everybody for their input again. It's been a cracking show. Lots of discussion again about Newcastle United and the way we are at the minute. It's so up and down. I'll be back on Saturday night around 10 o'clock with live match reaction again. Please, God, it'll be nice to do a match reaction with winning 3 points and not having to be so upset, angry about the player's performance. But we'll see. So that set a reminder for that. I'll be putting it's already on the channel, so please do set a reminder, as I say, for that one. And I'll catch you around 10 o'clock on Saturday night with the match reaction. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week and through Saturday, and then we'll get going again on Saturday night, hopefully with 3 points for the tune. Thanks very much for taking part and watching, guys. Love yous all. Take care. Good night.
Be strong. Be strong.